Why is it that the powers that be are doing everything in their ability to get gene-altering therapy into the human biology? Why is it that they're doing everything in their power to get gene-altering therapy into the human biology? If it's not through one of these jabs, it's now food. They are putting gene-altering therapy, biotech, and the biotech industry, and big agriculture and big pharma are putting gene-altering therapy into livestock, animal husbandry, and food, so that we will ingest it and take it into our bodies. Now, I have a question. Why is it that they want to get this technology into every human body, every man and woman on the planet? Why? Why do they need to get this tech into every man, woman, and child on the planet? Big question, right? Why the necessity to do this? Of course, in our country, Te Moana Nui a Kiwa, or Aotearoa, or New Zealand, which is a corporation, our despotic shitbag Jacinda Ardern said back in 2021, it only works if everyone gets it. Which is natural in natural law. They have to tell you what they're going to do, and then you, the man or woman in real natural law, make a decision based upon what you hear, whether you take the action to say, no thank you, I'm good, or you say, yeah sure, no worries, roll up my sleeve. So that's how it works. She told us it only works if everyone gets it. What does she mean by that? Let's go down the rabbit hole and I'll give you some of my ideas of what it means. Now, why they want to get this tech into every man, woman, and child. Gene-altering therapy. Your DNA is an antenna. That's it. It's a huge storage unit. It stores enormous amounts of information. It's also an antenna. It picks up frequencies. So your DNA, whether it's now altered through a gene-altering therapy since you had these injections, or it's not, is a receiver, transmitter, receiver process, right? So your antenna, your DNA, receives information, receives light filaments, receives light codes, receives frequencies. So have they given the people who have had this medical procedure, have you had your ability to be able to tune into certain frequencies as we move out of the Yuga cycle, of the Kali Yuga, into a transition phase, and then into a Bronze Age, a higher level of resonance, of frequency? Have the people that have had this medical procedure had their ability for their DNA to pick up those light filaments, to pick up those codes, that information? Have they had that ability sliced off, cut off? Are they no longer able to tune into those frequencies and allow them to come into their bodies? Has their DNA been altered in a way due to this medical procedure, this gene-altering therapy? Have they lost their ability to pick up the light codes, the frequencies that are coming in from the center of the galaxy, the cosmic radiation, whatever you want to say? Not woo-woo shit, honest, real. Have they lost the ability, has their DNA lost the ability to tune into these frequency bands, and therefore they are stuck in a dense vibrational frequency? And in that density, are they passing that on to their children if they have children, if they can have children? first question, can they have children still? Because a lot of people have had this medical procedure are finding themselves miscarrying or infertile, right? Second, why? Are they depopulating the planet through this medical procedure? Is it killing? Murdering, really? Is it a genocide injection? Is it a lethal genocide injection? We can say for a fact, for the data we are seeing, yes, definitely. It's definitely a tier to it there. Is this medical procedure, they want to get this gene-altering therapy into people's bodies? So 3, that they can control them, changing the DNA in the human biology so that it picks up frequency bands that they would be bombarding from outer space from satellites, which is always the plan of the Nazis, to control the planet from space, right? You've got DNA antennae, you've got a satellite system in space firing down a particular frequency band. Therefore, the human biology, the antennae, the DNA picks up that frequency band, and by doing that, you've got robots, cyborgs, controlling biology in every way. Biology, controlling and monitoring the biology, the thought processes, everything, right? 3, what was it 4? Shutting off, as Bill Gates once said and did a video with the DIA, Department of Intelligence Agency, I think it was, or the military, did a video showing how that they could turn off the gene for fundamentalism and cut off people's ability to connect to spirit, to consciousness. Is this part of it as well? Is this part of it, putting this gene-altering therapy into people's bodies, into their biology, so they can no longer connect to spirit, which is also can lead back to the first conclusion that I've come to, and the reason why they want to put this gene-altering therapy into every man, woman, and child on the planet. 4th or 5th, is this a harvest for Ahriman? If you look at Rudolf Steiner's anthroposophy work with the 8th sphere and Ahriman, is this a harvest? Is this tech a harvest tech? They put it into people's biology, and when the spirit, the consciousness leaves the body, it does not go back to source energy due to the nature of the blocking of, remarkable as this might seem, of consciousness to be able to get back to source energy. Is it blocking it and then diverting it and sending it off in a harvest back to the 8th sphere for Ahriman? Is this what's happening with this gene-altering therapy? Is this what they are doing? As Steiner once said famously, at some point in the 1920s or 1900s, early 20th century, one day they will create a vaccine that will stop humans from connecting to spirit. I think it was something, I'm paraphrasing, something of words to the effect. Is this what's going on? Are they putting this gene-altering therapy into everything to get it into every man, woman, and child so they no longer connect to spirit, and the harvest of that consciousness when the body is dead is no longer inhabiting, where the consciousness is no longer inhabiting the body, is it sent to the 8th sphere? Is it sent to the 8th sphere? These are all questions. I've got no answer for any of these. These are all just speculations, really, assumptions, and more questions, and there's more questions in regards to why they want to get this tech into everyone. And they do, because they're putting it in food, everything. And it is crazy to me. They are so hell-bent in getting this tech into people. So hell-bent. Every single way. This is a war on people's biology, on their choices. You know, it comes to a point now where we have to think about this. Where our food comes from. Are our animals that we're eating being tortured with this poison being put into their bodies? And we are ingesting it. We have to think about this. Are we at a place now where we have to really consider that all the old skills that our grandparents, generations ago, traditional cultures have always had? Growing our own food is always a must, especially since 2020. Taking full responsibility for our lives is all about that. Foraging, hunting, growing our own food, knowing where our food comes from. All these are very important, very, very important aspects of moving forward in this time that we're in right now. And even more so for those of us who want to keep this tech out of our bodies. We have to really consider where our food is coming from. Because it's an assault. It's a full-on assault on our choices. Because they're not going to label this food. And if you're eating out all the time, in restaurants, cafes, bars, or traveling, you're not going to know where your food comes from a lot of the time. You know, unless it's labeled or you're going to a place where the food you know is organic. And even then, do you know if the food's got this tech in it because of the nature of the seed cross-pollinations? It could be GMO, you know? And they're doing everything in their power to hide this tech in the food that we're eating. They're even going as far as not labeling it and making sure that they don't have to label it if they put this tech into food. So they're hiding it in plain sight. And this is the level of corruption. And they want to get it into everyone. There's no question here. There's no question. They're doing their best to get this tech into everyone. And there has to be a reason. Or reasons, plural. And you know what? My questions are still questions. I've got no answers in this situation. But my feeling is it's a mixture of all three, or four, or five of the speculations that I've made. It's about closing off the DNA so we do not connect to higher levels of consciousness, to light filaments. We do not connect to higher levels of existence. It's about depopulation. It's about taking out a large greater degree of the population. It's about infertility, creating infertility. So the generations that we have in the next few years, next few decades, are all infertile. So the population shrinks down to a tiny, tiny fraction of what it is today. And in 2 or 3 generations, you've got a whole bunch of people that have gone. Our population's reduced to the population of maybe 1 billion people, maybe less than that in 20 years. And also, I think, in regards to what they're doing with this as well, getting into every man, woman, and child's biology, is that harvest for the 8th sphere, for Aruman. This is it. This is, in my perspective, probably the keynote in regards to what's going on here. It's a harvest of consciousness, cutting off the men and women's and children's ability to connect the spirit to source energy, and harvesting that consciousness when it leaves the body and taking it across to the 8th sphere, where it will incarnate into that hell world created by Aruman. If you look at Steiner cosmology and Steiner's work with anthroposophy and the mystery school work, harvesting consciousness and taking it across to the 8th sphere. And this is part of it. This is a major part of it. I'm dead sure about that. And my speculations, at least, anyway, one of the reasons why they're doing this. So please, if you are totally aware of what's going on here, even if you're not, do some research into what and ask the question. Ask the question. Think about this. Why do they want to get it into everyone? What is the necessity to get this gene-altering therapy into every man, woman, and child? Why is the need for it to be put into every man, woman, and child? Big question to ask. And those of us who want to ask this question, many speculations as to know why. I don't know the answer to that question. I can only speculate. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Matewa. I'll see you again soon.